Welcome back. In this episode, we build a round-robin ore processor to deal with our huge stocks of ore, and unlock titanium using the power of chemistry. This is Star Technology. Let's get into it. Between episodes, I've been doing a little bit of renovation, I guess you could say, on the base. As you can see, this space is now free, and there is a large area over here that didn't exist before. The wire mill that we built last episode is here as well, and I've also extended that by, as promised, building the mixer, the lathe, the bender, and the extruder. Yeah, this big area has been expanded because I'm going to need this for my plans for today, which is here. So that's pretty exciting. I'll come back to that later in the video, but I just wanted to mention something about the vacuum freezer. So apparently you can overclock it by putting 2 energy hatches on it. So now this is running at EV, making this much quicker. Also, I did say I wasn't going to upgrade these to nichrome, but I figured, well, I might as well. I'll just keep them all current, all upgraded at the same time. It just seems easier. So I did some work here just tidying up the ethylene production. I've migrated it from over there to over here just using advanced chemical reactor 2s, so it's quicker. And we've got like the sort of an integrated recycling system here for the sulfuric acid. So what it does is the advanced distillery 2 here is picking up the diluted sulfuric acid from wherever it is coming from in the system and working on it, and then just putting it to here, and then this is used as a priority for any sulfuric acid in the system. The way we do that is by setting the priority here to be low. So if you see here, extraction lower priority first, by having this be minus 1000, it's picked up before any other sources, because we don't want this to fill up, because if that happens, the diluted sulfuric acid won't be able to be processed, and therefore this entire pipeline will shut down. Over here we have the main kind of sulfuric acid production. So this, occasionally when that runs out, this will fire up and produce a little bit more sulfuric acid, because that's at capacity now. Something I probably haven't talked about is this is my advanced packer. What it's doing is it's taking the tiny piles of sulfur dust that are produced from the sieves and just producing actual sulfur dust, because the tiny piles are not very useful to us. I got asked a question in the comments in the last video about how can you set it up so that you can actually see the recipes here for the bookmarked items. It depends on where you actually bookmark it. If we look at copper foil, so if I bookmark it here by pressing A, it appears over here. It's the specific recipe that I picked here. It's not the bending recipe, it's the crafting recipe. So if I was to bookmark this one, that's the specific recipe for that. You can see it's a different quantity. But if I was to use like an input rather than an output and bookmark it there, you can see that it won't actually have a recipe for it, because this is an input. So it's involved in a recipe, but not the output. If you hold down Shift, it will show you, which is a different recipe than what's on the screen instantly, but it does show certain things. So I think something that we probably want to do is just finish off this nano muscle armor. We're not going to use it, but it's the thing that's holding us back from finishing off HV. I think I actually have most of the components for this. Probably not, just not the night vision goggles. Like that. And chest plate. How do we make those night vision goggles? Some annoying things in there. Got a lot of it. How do I make a glass lens? Oh, okay, just a glass pane in a lathe. That'll put some of these into here. There that go. So what else do we need for these night vision goggles? Small sodium battery. Okay, done. Pop these in here. Build the night vision goggles. Means we can now build nano muscle helmet. And that is the end of HV. Alright. Pretty happy with that. Got some nice green here. LV obviously still a problem. So I have a confession to make. I have been collecting this ore since we did the sieving setup below. Aside from some of the raw materials that we actually do use, like diamonds and redstone, all of this is just sitting here unutilized. Here's an example of the ore processing diagram for ilmenite. This is particularly of interest to us because of the rutile dust, because that has titanium and that's what we need. Most of them follow the same sort of processing chain. That is that you use an ore washer It produces a purified ore and some sort of optional output. The purified ore is then run through a thermal centrifuge, which produces a refined ore and some sort of optional output. And then that refined ore is run through a macerator to produce a dust and an optional output. So what we're going to do is build basically an ore washer, a thermal centrifuge, and a macerator, but we're going to use the large machines using the multi-block upgrade kit. The ore washing process is, I think, twice as fast as the thermal centrifuge, and the thermal centrifuge and the macerator are about the same speed. Using the multi-block wall sharing, we'll actually build 2 ore washers, 4 thermal centrifuges, and 4 macerators. So I'm actually going to do something a bit different that I haven't done before. So most of the time when I build multi-blocks that share walls, I do them side by side. But I'm actually going to stack these vertically because that's something that you can do with the wall sharing mechanic. It doesn't have to be side by side. So there's going to be a stack of 2 here, a stack of 4, and a stack of 4. And I did that because that's basically, this is going to be quite a useful setup to have. So I might want to duplicate it across here. So I could actually utilize the same pattern multiple times for different chains of ores going through. We have 2000 ilmenite, we have 2000 pitch blende, we have 2000 molybdenite. I don't really want to wait for 2000 ilmenite to be processed before I process pitch blende. What I've got here is I'm setting up a demonstration as to why this is a problem. We've got sapphire, we've got emerald, and we've got ruby dust here. Set up with extractors already. And all I've got to do is hook up this pipe and it will start pulling them into this ULV input bus. This represents the ore processing unit. If I do that, you can see that it's pulling sapphire dust in there. For whatever reason, it's picked that one. It's not even the closest, so I'm not sure why that happened. If I pretend to be the ore processor, I'm going to be processing these 1 at a time or 2 at a time, pulling items out. Now what happens is they're immediately replaced by the pipe. It's always going to be working on sapphire dust, even though we have ruby and emerald here. Now what I want is I want it to process some sapphire, some emerald, some ruby, and then go back, process more sapphire, more emerald, more ruby. Because I don't want to wait an hour to get my first bit of ruby dust out. And I don't want to feed this machine manually. What I've come up with is what I call the round robin ore processor. And that's what we're going to build. What we're going to do is going to use something called a modular router. So the modular router is a device that moves things around from one inventory to another. That's what it looks like. It has an internal buffer of 64 items. It has these module slots where you can place modules, and it also has upgrades. Now the modules that you can place in include things like sending, receiving, distributing, placing into the world. What we're concerned with is a distributor module, which transfers multiple items in a special way. All of the modules within the modular routers mod have their own UI, which you can access by right-clicking. This is what we've got here. So it's got all the usual sort of stuff you'd expect, like filtering, blacklisting, etc. What we're concerned with are these 2 here. So there's something called a distribution strategy. One of the options is round robin. We can select random, nearest first, furthest first, but round robin is the one we want. And we also have the option to transfer out of the router, which is what most mods do, but also transferring into the router, which is what we're going to use today. So once we've configured that, we're good to go. So what we want to do is to actually bind it to something, we shift right click on inventory. Like that. Now, if you see at the bottom, it says target added 3 of 8. It has a maximum of 8 that it can have, but you can add and remove as required. What we want to do now is if we place this into here, it will start grabbing items. But first of all, what I want to do is talk about these upgrades. So by default, it transfers 1 item at a time. If you put in these stack upgrades, each one doubles the amount of items that it can carry. So if you put in 6 items, it'll go up to 64 at a time. So that's what we want. What I've got set up here is a ULV import bus. This will automatically pull whatever's in here. And this is a good example of what we're going to do in the actual ore processing. If I place this distributor module in here, see that it has grabbed something in the buffer and this has pulled it straight in. Pretending that I'm the ore processor now, I can grab items out of here 1 at a time, or smaller, less than a stack. As soon as we finish the stack, it puts the next stack in. Now, if you notice, every time it's the next one in the sequence. So that's exactly the behavior we want. Now, what's really cool about the modular router is it requires no power. That's everything we need to know to set it up. We are actually going to need more than 8 possible inventories that we want to process. Like initially I want to do 10. So what we'll actually do is have 2 modular routers that are each grabbing 5 items, and then a third modular router that kind of brings the two together, having the distributor module pointing, for the third one, pointing at the 2 modular routers. But that's it. So the actual recipes for some of these things, I should probably just go through very quickly. So the modular router is really simple. There's some iron ingots, some iron bars, and something called a blank module. The blank module is used for building modules, obviously. That's just paper and redstone and gold. This is all very low-tech stuff. It's nothing fancy. The distributor module, same sort of thing. It's just the senders. The magic that happens there is ender pearls, as you can imagine, teleportation. And what else is left? The speed upgrades, but we don't really need that. The stack upgrade, just a blank upgrade, stone bricks and some bricks. It's very simple stuff. Easily made, doesn't require power. I haven't messed around with it before, and I really wish I had, because it seems pretty cool. The first thing we want to do is we need 2 of these ore washers. It's a basic thing. You build a advanced 2 ore washer. You build a multi-block upgrade kit. You need some of these hydrogen casings and a bunch of inputs and all that sort of stuff. All right, let's get to building. We'll start with a base. Place the ore washer there, and then the maintenance hatch next to it. And do that, because we're stacking vertically. That's going to be the front face. That's all looking good. Let's upgrade these while we're here. Now around the back is where it's going to get a bit complicated. We need an energy hatch. Another energy hatch. Okay. Where are we going to put these ports? So they're going to have to be on that level there. So fill these in. Okay. Now that actually needs to be a wall, because that's the middle block. I'm going to put the input hatch on here. Input bus there. The output bus there. And that. Okay. So that's been built. And it's all working. It's all hooked up. Next, we probably want to build the thermal centrifuge. Right, the multi blocks. Fill in the blocks. Okay. It's going to need an energy hatch. We'll stack them like this as well. Input buses go on this side like this. That should be a wall. That should be a wall. And that should be okay on that side. Now over here, we want the output buses. And I guess just fill this all in. Okay. That appears to be happy. And then we move on to the next one, which is the macerators. Good. All right. Energy hatches. Input buses over here. So one there and one there. And then on the other side, we'll do the same thing. And then just fill it in. And that's all happy. All right, I'll hook up some power. Cool, all right. Well, that's the basic setup. So these are now built and powered. So what we need to do is actually start all the interfaces and outputs and stuff. And this is where it gets interesting. This is the slightly complex part. So we're going to need some storage controllers. One for each. 1, 2, 3. We're going to need some inventory connectors. 2 of those. We need some oak drawers. And also some of these 2x2 drawers. We need an interface. We need to import some distilled water. Let's get this one working with the ME system. It's the only one that actually needs to be hooked into the ME system for this to work. I just need to import some distilled water. Already done. Now, what I'm going to do is put an output bus, or an output thing on here, so whenever this output is finished, it will just chuck it into that chest. Because what I want to do is first run one of each ore that I want to process through. So, one of those, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, we don't want to do cobaltite because we've got to process that in a special way later. We do want monazite and we do want vanadium magnetite. We should have 10 in total. What we're going to do is run these through individually. And so all the outputs will appear in there. As you can see, that is very fast. It takes about 12 ticks, I think. And now we have all of the possible outputs. So as you can see, we have one of each of the purified ores. And also some stone dust. There's 10 of them because we ran 10 through. Because you always get a stone dust through this process. And you also have a chance to get some random other stuff. In this case, we didn't do too well because out of the 10, we only got 1 piece of thorium. That's okay. But now that we have one of each of these, we can actually start setting up the filtering. Because what we want to do is the optional outputs, the thorium and stuff like that, and also the stone, we want to store to the side. But these ones we want to push into the next machine. The way we can do that is by setting up some oak drawers here. 2x2, just for space saving, because we want to store the 10 different ores. These guys, 1, 2, 3, etc. Want to store these in here. They're not going to be stored for very long. It's just basically part of the filtering system. So they will go straight into this machine. But we do want to have them always come over here, so we need to set up places for them. That. And then lock these. We put an inventory connector on this. Now we can access all of these chests through this one block. And so what we'll do in a moment is we'll have this extract into those two. So that'll be the next part of the chain. But first, we want to get hold of all the different things that we can store. Of the 10 possible ores that we're putting in, there's only 9 possible outputs. So what we'll do is we'll create some oak drawers for this to go into. We'll get rid of this. Put a storage controller here. So using the linking tool, we'll link this storage controller to these 3 drawers. And then these ones here. Now we should have the 10 different outputs and a few chance outputs. And then we make sure to lock them. Place that there. We'll get rid of this. And a series of chests here. Now for this one, there is another 9 outputs. We need to link that to these 3. And then these ones. Okay, so now we have a load of different dusts. So there's no further processing that can be done down the chain. It's all just the products. What I'll do is I'll create chests here. So let's link these. Cool. That's all set up now, except for the first step, which is the round robin part. We're going to need 2 modular routers at the top. And then one that is on the URV import bus. Because the modular router itself has a buffer, it counts as an inventory. We can actually route from one modular router to another. So this modular router we set up with a distributor module to link those 2 into here. Now we want to upgrade it to stack at a time, so we put 6 in there. One of the things you can do with it is set the redstone mode. So I'm actually going to set it to redstone mode high and then stick a lever on it. And that means we can turn off the ore processor temporarily, which is pretty handy. That's currently off, so that shouldn't actually do any routing. So what we need to do is set up 2 distributor modules, one for each, and they'll pull from over there. This first one will go to those 5, and the other one will do those 3, the monazite and the vanadium magnetite. If I pop this into here, first of all, I actually need to set these to be the other way around. Transfer in and transfer in. If I pop this into here, this is now grabbing items. So let's put our stack upgrade in there, so it's grabbing a stack at a time. I'll do the same for this one. And that is basically it. So if I pull this lever, the entire system should start working. You can see it's processing 12 ticks. Here's a fun thing. The stone dust, because there's 1 stone dust produced for every single ore that's processed, this actually tells us how many items have gone through our system. These should be coming over here to produce the refined ores. Now these are not... Actually, I haven't hooked up these extractors yet, so let's do that. That's pretty easy. You just hook this up here and then configure this pipe to extract. That's now starting to process. And now we'll do the same thing here. What I'm going to do is actually mute these because these are extremely loud. As these come through, we can start locking these. The same over here. Oh, there's another one. So that's the system. Passively creating all of these different dusts. So some of them are duplicated. So over here we have magnetite, and I think there we have magnetite as well. If I was importing these into like another system, then I guess I could reconcile that and link them together, but I actually don't care that they're in 2 different spots. So what I'll do is create an inventory connector on each of these 4 kind of blocks and then wire them into the ME system. And so this will be storage for each of these dusts. Time to put in some copper upgrades, I think. Put a couple of those in there because that's going to fill up very quickly. And yeah, so that's it. So this is the magic dust that we need access to at the moment, this rutile. It's appearing here and also somewhere down the track here, rutile, yeah. So once it's all hooked in, we can start processing that. It's achieved the objective that we wanted to. So we're getting 1 of this, 1 of that, 22 of that. We're not getting, say, 3,000 rutile dust in one go. It's spread across all those different ones. Oh, and the other one is I kept skipping over this one here, cobaltite. We do need cobalt, but it turns out that the ore processing for cobalt is slightly different. Cobaltite, actually, if we were to run through the distilled water path, we'd get sulfur and some cobalt dust as the additional ones, and then we could electrolyze the cobaltite dust itself to get more cobalt. But there's actually a step here that if you wash it with sodium persulfate, you have a 70% chance to get a cobalt dust. So in the spirit of trying to do things efficiently and grab everything that we can out of this ore, I feel like we should probably use this chain here. So that means setting up a chemical bath instead of an ore washer. So I'll do that as a separate thing. There's a few others I think that benefit from the sodium persulfate. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. I think there's maybe 2 others. So we'll do that and we'll have a dedicated run to them. We've only been running it for a short time and you can see we've already processed 1,300 ore. Yeah, so I've just realized I've made a mistake. I forgot to include this bus up here in the extraction. So I just need to run a pipe down here and tell this to extract. That should fix that problem. And I've done the same thing over here. So the consequence of that is just ores or dust have been building up in here, but they should clear pretty quickly. So now that we have this rutile, we can tick this quest off. But the next node in this quest is called titanium tetrachloride. Rutile and carbon and chlorine makes carbon monoxide and titanium tetrachloride, which is what that quest was asking for. And then I believe titanium tetrachloride is then put into the electric blast furnace with a bit of magnesium, and it produces hot titanium and magnesium chloride dust. So that seems like the way to go. We've got source of chlorine, and we've got rutile, and we've got carbon dust. Okay, yeah. I mean, we can make this work. It's not going to be pretty to start with. It's going to be very slow. And then we need to figure out what we're going to do with the magnesium chloride. I guess we could electrolyze it and get the magnesium and chlorine back. So if I plonk this here, put an interface on the side, we'll put a drum there, so that can be where the actual titanium tetrafluoride goes. We're going to need a storage bus. In here, I need the rutile. I also need the carbon, which we don't have a lot of, I don't think. Rubber arm on that edge. So let's configure that. I'm hoping that this is smart enough that if I say import, pop that in there. Keep exact. Carbon. Rutile. Let's say 16. And then 8 of those. Keep exact. Import. The rutile is not hooked into the system yet, but the carbon is. So we'll see if it pulls it in and fills up the machine. That should come through. Okay, yep, it's coming through and it's feeding in and it's grabbed 8 only. That's good. That's good. What I need to do is hook up these storage interfaces. Place that there, and that there. That should now have access to that rutile that's in there. It's already extracting out, as you can see. Stop pretty soon. Yep, good. Oh, that's brilliant. It's done exactly what I want it to do. So why is that not processing? It's because we need chlorine as well. All right, so I think this is where we need another interface on this because I don't think we can import it through here. Import that. That's already come in. Brilliant. And then I just need a pump. And tell that to import. If I tell this to auto output, that should now automatically output the titanium tetrachloride in there, which it has. And the carbon monoxide is just lingering there, so I just need to deal with that now. So I can do that probably with a import interface on the underside. The important thing is I'm actually creating titanium tetrachloride now. So I can tick that off. And then we just need to do the hot titanium ingot. Magnesium plus titanium tetrachloride in the electric blast furnace. So I can actually set up a recipe for that now. But we are definitely going to have to update this process to be much faster because we're going to need lots and lots of titanium. And currently it is trickling in. 40 seconds. Yep, that looks like the right one. All right, that's done. Pop that in here. And then we just need to tell the vacuum freezer that it can handle hot titanium. Okay, that's done. Let's request some titanium. I don't think we've got much in the system, so let's request 8, I guess. That seems to be working. Should pop into here any second. There we go. Beautiful. And then we should have some titanium. So actually, I do need to grab those hot ingots though, don't I? That is a little bit of a joke, isn't it? They're going to burn you, and you have to pick them up. So I'm not going to be able to grab these before they come in. I can turn this off, I guess. As soon as a hot ingot is available, I'll just pick it up and put it back in there just to trigger the quest. This one. Okay. Turn that back on. It's a little bit silly, but you have to do that. And our magnesium chloride dust. I think we can just electrolyze that back into magnesium and chlorine. That's actually a good thing. So I've got an electrolyzer over here that's already working on chalcopyrite. What I might do is just tell it to process magnesium chloride instead. And we can tick that off. And tick that off. So I spent a bit of time just changing how the production of titanium works. Because I wasn't happy with the blast furnaces upstairs being constantly used by the titanium production. And I actually realized as well that we don't actually need much carbon chlorine or magnesium, because you can actually recycle it. This mess of pipes is like a self-contained system. The Advanced Chemical Reactor 2 here takes rutile and a little bit of carbon and a bit of chlorine. The gas goes into there, gets processed into the titanium ingots. The additional output from that is this magnesium chloride, which we can electrolyze, get the chlorine and the magnesium back. So the chlorine goes straight back into the machine here. Magnesium goes back into the blast furnace. And that basically just leaves the byproduct of carbon monoxide here. So that can be recycled by getting the carbon back into the machine, and the oxygen just gets vented. So the end result of all of that is with just, say, 4 pieces of carbon, a bucket or 2 of chlorine gas, and a few pieces of magnesium, this entire system is self-sustaining. So rutile comes in, hot titanium ingots go out. And that's, I thought that was pretty neat. So now that the ore processing has been running for a while, you can see that it's actually run through all of these ores. So that came out to be, 36,000 processed so far. Another thing that I've just noticed, which is a little worrying, I've caught it quick enough that it's not going to be a problem at the moment, is that the amount of diamonds in my system is now going down. So after a long time of it continuously going up, even with our power demands, it is now actually slightly shrinking. What I've done as a temporary measure to slow that down is I've piped the lapis into this machine instead. So we've got like a large store of lapis there. That won't last forever. So this is just slowing down the process, but we are going to need to upgrade our power, and not just by adding more of these. So that gives us an option. We can add another kinetic sieve. That would be fairly easy in terms of technology. It's all basic stuff. I don't know if I want to do that. I guess it is an option. I can just extend this platform out that way, and that will fix that. But what we probably need to do is move to a more advanced fuel source. What does that mean for us? Probably a compression dynamo, which means we actually need to start refining fuels. Now, considering we haven't even gone down that path at all, oil drilling and refining, that might be more work. But now that we're in EV, we have this whole section here, which is all about distillation. So maybe that would be a good way to go. So I've done just a little bit of reconfiguring over here. I've replaced some of the auxiliary reaction chamber kits in these lapidary dynamos with the multi-cycle injector kits. I didn't realize you could actually have more than one, so that seems to be a better way to go. So what these actually do is they make the fuel that you're burning last longer. So in this case, there's a multiplier of 1.5 that is cumulative, so the overall efficiency for each of these lapidary dynamos is now 338%. What it means is one single diamond will burn for 3.3 times longer than it previously did. It produces less power, so we're only producing 12,000 RF per tick, but across the 3 machines, it's enough to keep the factory running. So this is staying fully charged. So rather than actually trying to scale each of these lapidary dynamos to be more powerful, what we can do is make them more energy efficient and then just build a few more. I think for the moment, we should be okay, but we're definitely going to want to migrate to a new power system pretty soon. I think that wraps it up for this episode. Pretty happy with our progress today. The ore processor is looking pretty good, getting loads of ores, which is great. But I don't think we'll have any problems with resources in the short term. One thing we will probably have to get onto though is the power. What I plan to do next episode is start delving into the oil distillation and build some power system based off of that, which should be fun. If you're enjoying this content, then please subscribe and join me for the next episode. And I'll see you then. Cheers.